Hey, how are you?
I am pretty good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for talking with me today.
Yeah, thanks for wanting to talk to me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, wow, what an amazing film. I This one came out of left field for me. I knew nothing about it and I was so pleasantly surprised. I It was actually outside of Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor, it was by far one of my favorite films at Fantastic Fest. So congrats.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that you liked it.
Yeah.
And that's fun to have someone who didn't have expectations for it just kind of experience it. And I can also see how that could even be confusing at times. Like, was the tonally, were you like, oh, it's this film? No, it's that film. Like, what was your experience as a viewer?
Yeah, it was very much like, is this a comedy? Is it going to get darker? Is it going I just couldn't believe everything about it. Honestly, it's just so smart. It's whip smart, and yeah, I was just delighted after it ended. So I again, it was great. It was a
Thank
welcome
you.
experience. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I want to get started on the interview. I mean, I this may put you on the spot to sound arrogant, but did you know what you wrote was this good? Because it's such a sharp script.
Uh, Thank you. I mean, I tried really, really hard. And if I'm being 100% honest, I feel like going into shooting, I was like, yes, this is a great script. But then every single day, every single moment on set, as the actors were saying their lines, I was second guessing every word of it and wondering, is there a better version of this line that I'm not thinking of right now? And trying to, like, not rewrite it on set, obviously, but I was very much open to and worrying about how it could be better or how to make it less bad. So it's definitely come in waves for me in terms of moments where I'm like, yeah, I've got a great cast, so it must be a good script. But then other moments being like, oh, I don't know, when I'm hearing it out loud, maybe everything is terrible and why are we out here? So it's like a roller coaster in itself, but it's never a consistent one. Sometimes
Yeah.
it feels like it stops and you don't know what's going to happen next. So,
Right. Yeah. Well, and like, let's talk to our audience about sort of the origin of the film. How did you come up with the idea? How did you put the script together? Uh, as a whole.
so I came up with the idea, I believe it was end of 2016. I knew I wanted to make my own project and no longer just wait around for someone to give me permission to do something, because I'd been working as an assistant for about 10 years at that point in around Hollywood, and
Yeah.
I was getting tired of waiting to get promoted. So
Yeah.
my husband actually was the one who said, why don't you just combine two of your favorite films, like Home Alone and Fargo, and just make your own version of that? And that's what I did. And I knew that it was going to be set at my family's cabin in northern Wisconsin because it was a free location.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wanted to be a female lead who inevitably saves the day. And those were kind of the rules when I started off. And from there, it was just a 2-year writing process of showing it to different family and friends and hearing their feedback. And sometimes that was really difficult to go through, to get lots of notes, especially when I would think that I had a really good draft and then everyone would kind of tear it apart.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to put yourself out there like that,
Yeah.
like over and over again.
Yeah.
But it definitely made for a better script at the end of it and a better film ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then like obviously the cast, you talked a little bit about saying you had a great cast, and I think it starts with Vanessa Morano. I mean, did you audition her role, or did you decide she was perfect right to play Madison right from the get go?
Um, I looked at a lot of auditions, and the casting process, wasn't very long because I wanted to strategically cast kind of closer to when we were filming, because it felt like it'd be easier to get actors to sign on. And I saw her tape in a heap of tapes, and it definitely helps that I was already familiar with her in general.
Yeah.
But I just thought that she did such an amazing job hitting that tone of, I am a stubborn teenager who's trying to find her place in the world and thinks she might know, but isn't 100% sure. And she's definitely played similar characters before, but I think that this was brought with a little bit more, it was definitely more serious of a project at times in terms of her character, and it was a little bit more grown up than like an ABC Family show, I would like to think.
Yeah.
It's a little darker than,
right.
It gets in Switch Different. So she already was like so good at capturing that kind of spirit, and it was really fun to work with her and see what else she could bring to the role.
Yeah, I mean, she knocks it out of the park. I mean, and I think sort of it starts with her because you have to sort of pick up on a sense of tone and attitude of these characters, in order to make it work. And that's sort of you mentioned Home Alone. I mean, it doesn't work if Macaulay Culkin doesn't like set the tone as an actor, right? So
yeah, and he's just a kid who's like being ridiculous, and you can relate to it in the same way that she's just being a 18-year-old who's being annoying, but you can still relate to it. Like, it's stubborn, but in a relatable way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I wanted to ask you about the score as well. The music adds this upbeat energy, and I think you kind of walk a fine line of whether you're veering into something that's like Monty Python or Benny Hill type of music versus like it working and sticking with the tone of the movie. And what I'm saying is it does work, but how did you collaborate with with this person who did the score of this film in order to get that exactly right?
There were times when I knew exactly what I wanted in terms of what the music needed to do.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of times, like when they're in the house with the robbers, where I wasn't really sure. I was really struggling to find even temp music to put in for when I was showing it to people. That section was super quiet and didn't have music for a lot of screenings when I was editing it and getting feedback from people, because I just didn't know what to put there. And he was the one who really understood how the music could be dark, but then in times help guide the audience to realizing it's okay to laugh at certain moments, even though it's surrounded by darker moments. And he really made that like entire chunk of the movie was him just understanding musically what could be added and enhance what was already happening.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, it was just a lot of searching through different songs, and then everything was like, oh, well, this might work. But then as soon as I found a song that definitely would work that ended up in the film, it's like I just knew, like, oh, no, this definitely works, and it's not a maybe pile. And then it's like the entire maybe pile just gets scrapped. But you have to go through the maybes to find the definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's so good. I mean, and even talk about sort of the humor. I always find comedy is a very tricky thing to work with as well. What do you think for you helped make it as funny as it is? Is it the writing, your cast, or just a collection of all of it?
I mean, I feel like they just all really enhanced everything that I was trying to do. It was like, here I am building this foundation and I have this idea, and then every single person as they come in just makes it better. Like things like when I was first storyboarding the kitchen scene before the turkey, what I call the stealth cat scene, when Jimmy surprises Madison, I had written it to be from like the flip side, that the camera would be basically over the oven, and it was her going up and down, putting things in the oven, and then him coming up behind her. And then my DP said, actually, what if we put it over here? And it was definitely better that way because it was the long hallway in the back and the fridge helped hide things. But a lot of the film process was me coming up with the concept and the idea, and then someone just coming in and be like, but what if we just put it over here? And it's just make everybody contribute in their own ways to make it so much better. And it felt very collaborative in that sense. And the fact that I had a game plan going in that I could fall back on, but then I was also very open to people's ideas to then change if I thought it was a better way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I even wanted to ask you about the ending. I think the ending is just, like, amazing, especially because when you think, like, one character does the right thing, you just wait another second and they might make the wrong decision, another beat later. But did you have any alternate endings, or did you decide to end it differently and change it, or was it just you knew that this was how it was going to go down? I don't want to give too much away, but things get a little bit violent, and I think, like, it's not necessarily you weren't prepared for it, but when it hits, it's amazing.
I at one point had or for a long period of time, I want to say the first year of writing it, I had a different ending in where it's Madison and Patrick in the garage having this whole. The garage used to be more of a place we kept going back to, where you see Jimmy and Madison near the beginning of the film. Mm-hmm. And I had it be this standoff in the garage, and she's defending herself. And my husband, when he read it, he's shot a lot of TV movies as a DP.
Yeah.
And he's like, this feels like one of those movies, Maria, I think you can do better. Like, for the ending. That, like, it's not just like a woman being attacked in a room and she just narrowly escapes. Like, it should be something else. And so he definitely, it was very much that mom criticizing their kids' college admissions essay where it's like, I think you can do better. Like, and you're like, but this is so good. And you're like, so I feel very lucky that I had family and friends around me that didn't feel shy to tell me when they thought that something could be better and pushing me to figure out a better solution. And that's what ultimately led to how the film actually ends.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I loved it. I mean, I was just laughing and in awe of, like, all of these characters. And you talked a little bit sort of already about your inspirations with Home Alone and Fargo. But did you try to implement any other inspirations, either in writing the script or even during production of it? Did things change at all of how you wanted to do things? I think I read, like, you kind of were inspired of, like, movies with, like, trap doors underneath, like Edgar Allan Poe, or you know what I mean, stories of that nature.
I think it's a combination of taking goofier films like Home Alone as an inspiration, but then making it more a realistic situation where if someone gets hit with a pinky on the face, like, they don't just get up and run back upstairs, and with, like, not even having an injury. And also then taking darker moments of films and flipping them on their head to be sillier. Like the beginning when she's reading her essay, I kind of stole that from the beginning of No Country for Old Men when he's narrating over these beautiful landscapes about this one murderer he had, like, captured. And it's this really dark, beautiful story. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if you think it's going that way and it's almost taking itself too seriously, and then you realize what is so serious, what you think is something, like, so dramatic is actually just, like, an admissions essay draft. You're just, like, flipping, like, I went back and forth with that, and that's how I kind of found that middle ground of the tone. But Blue Ruin was also a huge reference in terms of he does such a good job, Jeremy Saulnier, of going through and having his character every step of the way at the beginning, somehow making everything worse.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just so genius of him to be like, okay, I'm not just going to run out. I'm going to have him cut his hands, but then have to leave in this car that he just, like, slashed the tire. And it's like, how much worse could it get? And it's just, everything keeps getting worse and worse. And it makes the movie so much better, and the character's so relatable. So that's why I kept thinking, like, what else could go wrong here? How much worse could this be? And I feel like that definitely manifested itself in that final scene where it looks bad, and then it looks like there's a release, but then it gets even worse. But then
Right.
maybe it's better, and then it's even worse. But then
Yeah.
you hear sirens. It's like everything. Like, how much more insane could this be for the characters? Was really the question I was asking myself all the time, and I think that helped make every scene more interesting and better.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I mean, I do want to. I'm going to ask you the cliched question of what you're working on next, because honestly, I think the first move should be just to make sure everybody sees this film, because, like I said, it's fantastic. But are you already starting to work on something next? Because it seems like you definitely have massive talent, and you should be keep doing this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I actually have a lot of ideas, so I just need to kind of focus in or figure out which one is even, producible in COVID, and just kind of focus and settle in on one. So yeah, I've got ideas for TV shows and for features, and they're all kind of circling around the same comedy and horror and whatnot. So I have ideas, so we'll just kind of have to see which one. I'll have to talk to some folks to figure out what I should focus on. But yeah, I'm definitely going to do more. I definitely want to do more, and hopefully it's easier to do from here on out.
Yeah. All right. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for talking to me today. Let's just get everybody to see how to deter a robber. I love the title. I loved this film. So yeah, I think big congrats.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and everyone hopefully does see it soon. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks, Maria. You take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.